What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help me to get to 100 subscribers. So let's get into it. This is my mock draft, my first one of three. And as you can see clearly, the theme is I traded down a couple times. And a lot of these players are players that the Commanders have already met with. So it's not like it's far fetched for them to select these players. But let's see if you come back in a year, if they select any of these guys. I'd be excited with quite a few of these guys, and I hope they reach that level. Now, just the overall theme here is clearly I'm looking at running backs. They got Travion Henderson here, um, who is a home run threat with his speed. And then you also have Phil Maffa, who is a thumper with some wiggle, 6'1", 245. Um, so if you're trying to get a sort of like a thumper for the end of game times, or if you need a little bit of a tougher, bigger guy, you can take him. And then also I have Micah Bernard from Utah, and I think that he could play the role of a Austin Eckler, who is to me on his last legs. Proud of what he's done for the team, but if you're looking for a little bit of speed and enough elusiveness, a third down guy would be Micah Bernard. And again, they've talked to all of these guys in interview sessions after the college season, so it's possible that they can go this route. All right, so let's get into it. With the 33rd pick, it was a trade down from 29. I'm not going to say who they traded with. I'll just tell you that they picked up some nice picks to trade down 4 spots. The first person, Travion Henderson. Let's go. In a word, Travion Henderson is explosive. He can take it to the house at any time, and he's a heck of a blocker. I compare him a lot to his Ohio State running mate, Quinton Judkins, who is also explosive but has a bit more power and a bit bigger at 6 foot, 215 pounds. However, Henderson runs a 4.4340, which is top end speed for a running back, and he's 5'10", 202, probably can get up to 210. So he's solidly built, and he would bring any team that he comes to a bit of explosiveness from the backfield. No, he won't. If the line of scrimmage is crowded, he won't necessarily get out of trouble per se, but good luck in catching him in the first place because he's super quick and has good speed. Let's look at a little bit of Travion Henderson doing his thing. Oh, can receive out of the backfield. Has a little bit of a burst because it gets into the open field. And it's 1, 2, 3. See ya. 6'3", 198 pounds out of Iowa State as cornerback. Darian Porter is the next selection for the Washington Commanders. He's a quintessential Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. defensive back. He's long, he's rangy. He's a former receiver, so he can take away the ball at a better clip than the Washington Commanders did last year, who did not do a good job of taking away the ball, although later in the year they got better and better. And he's also got enough size where he can play the tight end pretty well. And if he gains 10 to 15 pounds, he can be interchangeable as a safety and a cornerback. He reminds me a lot of Tyler Owens, except he's a cornerback. He's a little bit taller than Tyler Owens. Tyler Owens is 6'2", probably 210, ran a 4.40, whereas Darian Porter is 6'3", 198, and ran a 4.3 flat 40. So if he gains 10 to 15 pounds, he can certainly make him interchangeable. And those are the type of guys that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. like. And with that speed, he has good closing speed in case he gets beaten on longer developing plays. He can certainly catch up with receivers and defend the pass pretty well. He does a good job as far as technique is concerned. when some of those routes that are short. And I think that Darian Porter, with a little bit of development, could certainly turn into a pretty good defensive back in the NFL. Imagine, if you will, if you had a DK Metcalf type receiver on the Washington Commanders. And now imagine Metcalf with Debo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. The offense would, at least the passing game, would be damn near unstoppable. There's a DK Metcalf type in the draft this year, and it's 6'4", 215-pound Dante Thornton. And Dante Thornton is super athletic, and he has top-end speed. He ran a 4.3 flat in the combine this year. Let me say that again. He ran a 4.3 flat at the combine this year, and he's 6'4" and a half, 215 pounds. He's solidly built. He gets open. He has pretty good quickness for a guy his size, but he definitely has elite speed. In some ways, he's like a Brian Thomas Jr. for JD5 if he is selected by this team. And you know what damage he and Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors did at LSU. So this guy, Dante Thornton, 6'4", 6'4" and a half, 215 pounds, 4.3 40. Get him. So with the 94th pick, the Washington Commanders on my mock draft select Demetrius Knight, linebacker out of South Carolina. And this guy arrives violently on the scene on the football field. He has an interesting story in that he's a father, and he would Uber after games to have a little extra money, particularly to do things like buy a Christmas gift for his son. So he comes with a bit of maturity. He plays aggressively. He finishes plays. And to me, he's a good replacement for somebody like Bobby Wagner. I think I like him ahead of somebody like Jordan McGee, who, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I wasn't a big fan of drafting Jordan McGee in the 5th round, as he had always been injured in college. Not that Jordan McGee isn't super talented, because he is, but it's just that he was frequently nicked up in college, and it's proving to be the same in the NFL. But you take somebody a little more durable, that's aggressive, that won't quit on plays. My goodness, if you take Demetrius Knight at this spot, I think you have a good football player on your team. The Commanders are interested in him. They interviewed him after a bowl game, and then they interviewed him again at the South Carolina Pro Day. So Demetrius Knight, he is an aggressive, attacking guy. At the linebacker position, 6'2", 235, ran a 4.5 40. All right, at pick number 194 for the Washington Commanders, and they select on this mock draft Rod Taylor out of Memphis. If you watched my video on wide receivers who I liked and who the Commanders like, Rod Taylor is one of those guys. And if you notice anything about the theme of the picks that I'm making for this mock draft, I'm stacking certain positions, such as the running back and the wide receiver. Can never have too many good players at those positions. And imagine if you have 4 guys that you can put on the field at the same time with varying degrees of specialties, but also that are super talented. Then you are in a good position, because you can put Terry, Debo, Dante Thornton, and Rod Taylor on the field at the same time. That would cause a problem for defenses, and that would cause a problem for the coaches, but a good problem in the sense that who are you going to keep off the field if you have this much talent in the receiver room? So I like that problem to have. And Rock Taylor at 6'2", 225, a 4.5 40, plays the ball well in the air, can go up and get it, is strong, hard to tackle. I really like Rock Taylor. And so that is who the Commanders are picking in this mock draft at pick number 194, having traded down and picked up some very good picks. So, Rock Taylor. Okay, next up, pick number 207 for the Washington Commanders is tight end Rivaldo Fairweather out of Auburn University. And he is a big and fluid and athletic tight end that is developing as a blocker. I'm not giving up on Ben Sinnott at all, but I think you can have as much talent as you need. You can have two receiving tight ends now. Now, I think he will be a good understudy for Zach Ertz, who will teach him the nuances of running routes from a tight end position. But I think also he realizes the importance of being able to block well as a tight end, as he has mentioned it several times in interviews. So Fairweather has a good story. He has a mentor that is a prominent coach, prominent former coach, that advised him to switch to tight end if he wanted to have a chance in the league. He did so, and it looks like it's headed in that direction. He's got a good head on his shoulder, and I think he will be pretty durable based on my sports astrology research. And Rivaldo Fairweather, notice I'm collecting talent in spite of the needs of the team. A lot of people look at the needs and then they start drafting guys and then they put the needs before the talent. I'm putting the talent before the needs. Collect as much talent as you need, and you always have needs at every position. That's what I say. So Rivaldo Fairweather. Okay, next up is big number 99. The Washington Commanders select at number 216. Defensive tackle Cam Jackson out of Florida. He's huge, 6'6", 328 pounds. He runs a 5'1" 40, but that doesn't matter. He's a space eater. He's good at the run, against the run. There's not much film on him, but again, there's a method to my madness. There's a reason why I'm selecting him. We'll see how it plays out. Make sure you come back in a year and see how some of these players pan out. But I like his size. He has some intangibles in the sense that he will chase down plays from a backside. He plays with a little bit of a mean streak. I like Cam Jackson, space eater, 6'6", 328. Plays with a little bit of aggression. I think he'd be a good pick for the Commanders. You can never have too many defensive tackles. And I know I said that about the wide receiver and running back position, but you can never have too much of any position. Okay, next up is running back Phil Mafah from Clemson, 6'1", 235 pounds. I think he might be 240. So he's a thumper type, and he's a good contrast to somebody like Travion Henderson. So if you need more of a power back, it's good to have variety. You want as much talent as you can get, but you also want variety. You don't want the same type of player over and over. And I think he has some power. He has some pretty decent vision, and he's got pretty decent speed, although his 40 time is not available. But at 6'1", 235, 240, he can get you some tough yards. You can use him in the fourth quarter to sort of pound away. He's projected to be a practice squad player at best, but I think he can exceed that. And again, I think he'll be durable. He'll be tough. He'll be a commander, and he'll be a good sort of second punch in a 1-2 punch type of backfield. And I like him. I like that he's durable. I think he's a good contrast. Okay, next up, pick 220. The Washington Commanders select defensive end Danny Strigo out of Minnesota. Danny Strigo is an intriguing prospect at 6'4", 6'5", 255 pounds. He's got a little bit of quickness and speed, and I think he could be one of those guys that can be a bit unheralded, but if he works hard, I think he could actually be a good situational pass rusher or defensive end. He's not on a lot of people's radar, but he has good instincts. He doesn't mind mixing it up. He uses his frame well. He's fairly athletic. Danny Strigo, love his game. And as you can see from the highlights, he can play standing up or with his hand in the dirt. He's fairly athletic for a 6'4", 6'5" guy. He's projected to have run a 4.7 40. He was not invited to the combine. And for me, so what? But you need defensive ends. And I know a lot of people are saying that that might be the number one need for them. But I think Danny Strigo might be a good pick. So Danny Strigo, 6'4", 255, University of Minnesota. Good player. With the 238th pick, the Washington Commanders select offensive tackle Myles Hinton out of University of Michigan, who stands at 6'7", 348 pounds. He's a mammoth of a man, and he moves pretty fluidly for his size. He has a little bit of a Main Street, and he'll certainly fit into what the Commanders are trying to do this offseason as it relates to the trenches. They're trying to get bigger and stronger in the trenches, and they don't miss a beat with the selection of Myles Hinton out of University of Michigan. Again, he's 6'7", 348. He moves pretty well for a guy his size. He's certainly a project, but I think he's a diamond in the rough, and it's possible they will too. So a good value for 7th round. Next up, pick number 250 in the 7th round for the Washington Commanders is running back Micah Bernard out of Utah. He's 6 foot, 206, and he ran a 4.58 40 at the Big 12 Pro Day. And it was not my intention to select a third running back in this draft, although he could play a bit of a Austin Eckler role. But the selection of players that was available by the time we got to this pick did not really move me. And I think this guy can be a bit of a diamond in the rough. He's a player that Kyle Shanahan would probably pick up and turn into a viable NFL running back. So I like the backstory behind Micah Bernard. And he's definitely a hard worker. And he's got a little something that I think could translate to the NFL. Now, I would like to pick up somebody like a Yahya Black, the defensive tackle out of Iowa, who is a huge guy, and he's a good one-stopper. He's projected to go in the 6th or 7th round, but he was not available in this draft. Also, if you're going running back, maybe it's a Corey Krosky-Merritt out of Arizona is a sleeper as well. All right, so this concludes the first mock draft for the Washington Commanders, and it was certainly running back heavy. And but you got yourself a lineman, you got yourself a defensive tackle, quick, fast linebacker that goes downhill. You got yourself Travion Henderson, which is a good pickup. You got an explosive receiver. You got a pretty good cornerback with speed and high potential. So like this draft. I'm going to do a 2.0 version and a 3.0 version, and they'll certainly have some differences there. So this one certainly focused on the offense more than the defense, and probably all of them will. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help me to get to 100 subscribers. I really appreciate it. And let me know what you think down in the comments. But again, the Commanders' Ray Rogetli, 11 picks out of trading down twice. So if they can do something like that, there are some options, some diamonds in the rough that they can certainly go after. If they can pick up some picks, they can make their team better with some youth, with some power, speed, or instincts. All right. Thanks. Take care.